to introduce our next speaker who's going to continue to bring up the energy for us. So today's keynote speaker is a farm boy from Kentucky and a former high school English teacher who learned early on that leadership is less about titles and more about presence. Since then, he studied body language from a retired FBI agent and helped restaurants across the country turn trust into real strategy. He's an award-winning author of 5 books, the founder of the Trust Architect Group, and in case you're wondering, his favorite Buffalo Wild Wings are salt and vinegar dry rub. Please welcome today's keynote speaker, the Trust Architect himself, Justin Patton.
Good to see you. All right, B-dubs. You sure know how to make someone feel some love, so thank you. Now listen, I don't know what y'all's first job was, but my first job was a 16-year-old kid in Mount Washington, Kentucky, and I worked at McDonald's. Now y'all, I loved that job, and part of the reason I loved it, I was making my own money, I felt a little bit independent, and for the first time ever in my life, I could afford a pager. Now how many of y'all had a pager back in the day? Raise your hand. Look how far we have come. If you raised your hand, you were over 40 years old, okay? But I had a GM at that time who was a good GM, but said that famous line that a lot of you have either said in this room or you have heard. He was like, Justin, you have got to quit talking so much. And y'all know he was right. I know he was right. But he said that famous line, he was like, blank is money. Now, y'all know what he said. What'd he say? Time is money. Now, every one of you have a handout right in front of you. I want you to grab that handout. I want you to grab a pen. In the top left corner, it says blank is money. And I want you to write time there. And as you're writing, here's what I want you to think about. Is there some truth to that philosophy? Maybe, but I think we do our customers and our guests, I think we do our own servers and bartenders a disservice when that is our philosophy. And I think all of us in this room should be having a bigger conversation, and it is that trust is money. So I want you to cross out the word time, and I want you to put the word trust over top of it, and I'm gonna prove it to you. How many of you all ever had a customer service experience that you went through that went so bad that you never went back ever again? Raise your hand if you've ever been through that moment. Yeah, most of us. So I'm gonna tell you who it was for me. So years ago, I used to go to Qdoba so much. Now Qdoba, most of you probably know what it's like, kind of like Chipotle. I used to go to Qdoba so much that one day I walked in, they were like, oh my gosh, we were wondering what time you were coming today. That's embarrassing, do not tell people that in front of others, okay? And I remember this other day I go in and I go to the front counter and there's a new woman working. And I ordered a chicken cheese quesadilla, and I asked for it to be grilled twice, so it's oozy, crispy, all that. So from a timing perspective, they got it all right. They take my order, we go down the line, I'm standing here at the grill machine, or at the register, and I can see her on the grill machine. And she pushes the button once, she pushes it twice, and then all of a sudden, she hits it a third time. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be burned. So I kind of leaned over the counter and I said, excuse me, ma'am, I just wanted it grilled twice. I don't know if any of y'all saw The Exorcist in that movie when that girl cranks her head around, but in slow motion, she cranks her head around and in front of the entire lobby goes, I know. And all I remember, first I was embarrassed. And after embarrassment went through me, now I'm mad. And my heart is starting to pound and my blood is starting to boil. And all I can think about is I am about to go to jail over a chicken cheese quesadilla, okay? Y'all, look at me. I am confident enough in myself to tell you, I can't make it in jail. I already know I can't. I cannot, okay? So I'm like trying to hold it together. She brings the quesadilla to the front counter, pushes it really slowly towards me, and then does her little Beyonce walk to go help the next customer. So I took that quesadilla, I went in the lobby, I ate my food, and when I left, I took my loyalty, my finances, and everything good I've ever said about that company, and I never went back ever again. It is never about time. It is always about trust. I would dare to say in your personal life, how many of y'all have kiddos? Yeah. For all of you, this is why trust will be the reason your kids are going to grow up and decide, do I have a relationship with my parents or not? It is why our team members stay with us and to say, am I going to continue to build a career here at Buffalo Wild Wings or am I going to go somewhere else? It is always about trust. And so you're going to hear me say this a few times, that trust is our biggest competitive advantage. Now, I'm going to you to take 20 seconds at your table and I want you to tell me why this actually might be true in our world. Personally, professionally, any of it. Why is trust our biggest competitive advantage? Take 20 seconds and make sure someone at your table is going to speak. All right, let's talk about it. So I love that when I ask that question, you look over like, one of y'all better answer, okay? So talk to me here. Just yell it out. Why would you say in our world, your world, why is trust our biggest competitive advantage? What does it do? Okay, yeah, you're gonna hear me say this. You just kind of summarized it all, what I'm gonna say next on the one slide. It is the one thing that keeps people coming back again and again. That is it. And then what did you say over here? Yeah. Everyone says, oh, we want people to be loyal, whether it's the people that come into the sports bar, whether it's our own team, but the only thing that keeps people loyal is trust. And for me, as you look on this slide, this is all the research. What we know is as trust increases, so do all these other factors. Loyalty, productivity, so does candor. We're always like, why aren't our team speaking up? Well, they're only gonna speak up if they feel safe enough to do it. So then what happens is when there's trust, if a position ever comes open in the sports bar or in the company, what's gonna happen is the leaders are gonna look down the line and say, who do we already trust to fill the position? So trust creates opportunity. And everything that you just said, if I had to summarize it in one sentence that I want you to write down on that handout, the reason trust is your biggest competitive advantage, it's because it's the one thing that keeps people coming back again and again. That's it. And yesterday, I was listening to Phil talk about the acronym WINGS and where we're going and being the greatest sports bar in America. So I wanted to show you one of your servers that I think is doing it really well. So before I was getting on the road and I was gonna come do all these events, I went into the sports bar several times without them knowing I was gonna be the speaker. And I was like, I wanna see what the vibe is really like and what's going on. So I live in Middletown, Kentucky, so I'm in Louisville. And I went to the sports bar that's really close to me. And on my first visit, I take my sister and we're just going to see what the vibe is like. And this is our server, Danielle. And the moment we walked into the sports bar, she welcomes us, this big old smile. She asks us, tell us to sit down wherever we want. And then as we're, figuring out what we want to eat, my sister doesn't really know. So Danielle says, you know what, I get it. She goes, can I sit down with you and we'll go through it together? My sister slides down. Danielle sits in the booth with my sister, talking to her, asking her what she's like, telling her favorite items on the menu. And I'm gonna tell you, till today, it's the one person that my sister continues to talk about how amazing that experience was. Yes, the food was great, the vibe was amazing, but the most important thing was Danielle's presence and the impact that it had on our entire experience. So when we talk about, how do you create this wings stuff and how do you bring it to life? It's using our presence to make people feel seen, to make them feel like they want to come back again and again. And for all my people in the audience that are like, okay, I get this, but I want to see some data. This is your one slide. So I wanted to show you this is not just my opinion. I wanted to back it up with a little bit of science. So I want you to see this. They found that over 50% of consumers will walk away from their competitor they like after just one bad experience. So for all of you that raised your hand and said, hey, I've been there, I walked away from something after that bad experience, we're in that statistic. The other one said 88% of people said the experience they have is more important than the product itself. I want you to hear this. I might love going to your sports bar. I might even love the food, but the experience as a whole is more important than the product or the food that I eat when I go there. And so how do we make sure the moment I step in there, the experience, the vibe, everything is what really resonates with me? And the last thing is most people, 54% of consumers, said that, hey, most brands could do a better job at just improving the experience. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you a few things to think about today about if there is a relationship in your life right now, whether at home with the person you're married to, whether it's someone in your family, or maybe it's someone in the sports bar where you're like, trust is not where it needs to be, and I wanna make it better. I'm gonna give you some things that you can make that trust grow better in that relationship, but I want to start here. I need you to know how we actually define trust. So if you wanna write this on the handout, there's a space for it. We always say trust is the unwavering belief that you're gonna have my back. I want you to think about that. Trust is the unwavering belief that you're gonna have my back. Let me tell you why that's important. there were millions of people that woke up this morning that have to go to jobs where they feel their general manager, the executive team doesn't have their back. And I actually believe there are millions of people that are married that rolled over to the person they're sleeping next to, and they believe the person they're sleeping next to does not even have their back. And when we started doing all of our research on trust, we went on social media and we said this. We wanted people to fill in the blank. We said, a life without trust is blank. And we were curious, what would people put in the blank? So I want you to lean over to the person beside you, 5 seconds, don't have a long conversation. What word would you put in that blank? That a life without trust is blank. What word would you put? Just tell the person beside you. So, we hear a lot of words. Give me some of the words you said. A life without trust is what? Empty. Yeah, someone said empty. The most common answer is what you just said, that a life without trust is a really lonely place to be. And so, understanding how do we create this experience where you got real excited about yourself. I love that, okay? Yeah, this idea that life without trust is lonely, and how do we create spaces and places where people don't have to feel that way. Now, you heard in my bio that I studied body language from a lady in the FBI. It was not about reading everyone else's body language. It was understanding, do you know the promise that your presence makes to people? When you walk into that sports bar every day, what does your presence, what signal does it send to people? I'm gonna give you your first test. If I asked you right now, what is the most honest part of the body, based on your experience, I want you to think about what would you say the answer is? And so that you don't change your answer, lean over and tell the person beside you, the most honest part of the body. Now y'all know I'm setting you up, okay? So raise your hand if you said it's your face or eyes. Okay, you were wrong, okay? And we have been told our entire life, look people in the face and eyes. You all I know most of you said you have kiddos. You have looked at your kid at some point and been like, did you take that? And they're like, you know they took it, okay? You have looked at someone this week and been like, I love that outfit. You did not like that outfit, okay? And so we probably lie with our face and eyes the most. So that's not the answer. What else besides face and eyes? You said arms, how you stand, shoulders, voice, okay, tone, art. All right, your shoes. Okay, I love it, okay? Here, can I ask you why you said shoes? You think? Well, I appreciate, okay? I appreciate that. Here's what's funny about your answer. It is actually your feet, okay? So, and so here's why. The further you get away from your brain, the less conscious you are of it. So you'll be in a meeting or you'll be talking to somebody and I know you've been in this meeting since yesterday. You're gonna start being like, come on, I wish this guy would move it along. You're gonna start shaking your foot, but you're gonna be really aware of your face. You'll be like, this is great. You checked out 30 minutes ago, all right? And so we are really aware of what happens to our face. We're not always aware of what happens to the lower part of our body. I'm gonna interview 2 of you. We don't know who it's gonna be. We'll find out in a little bit. I'm gonna interview 2 of you on stage, and you will see just the way that my presence shows up impacts my ability to actually connect with people. And so I'm a big believer that your presence either puts people at ease or it puts them on edge. Those are the only 2 options you got. And so I saw a leader in about 90 seconds do this magically. I was in the Denver airport flying to Indianapolis to go work at the NCAA. And y'all know what it's like in the airport. People are waiting for their flight. They're either on their phone, chilling, doing whatever. And all of a sudden, the pilot comes off the plane, goes down the gateway, gets behind the podium, grabs the microphone, and he says, excuse me, if any of you are flying to Indianapolis today, can you please raise your hand? Now, y'all know that's not normal, right? So everyone kind of stops what they're doing. They look around, and then you see these sea of hands go up. And he goes, hello. My name's Captain Dave Tuck, and he goes, I'm gonna be your pilot today. And one of the things the military taught me was how important it is to get everyone on the same page before we start a mission. So I wanted to just come out here and get to know all of you before we start today. And he said, because of the weather, we might be 5 minutes late. We've checked everyone's connections. No one's gonna miss their connection. He goes, regardless, we have enough gas to get to Antarctica. I'm like, that ain't funny at all, okay? And he goes on, and my favorite part was the end. He goes, hey, before you board the flight, he goes, I only have one rule for all of you today. He goes, my only rule is that you be kind to each other. Because y'all know what it's like in the airport nowadays. When they're like, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the boarding process, it is like a scene of the Hunger Games in the airport, okay? He knows how people treat each other. So he was like, just be kind to each other. Our flight attendants are on board. They got the plane clean for you. And he goes, I can't wait to see all of you in Indianapolis. Now, y'all, I fly every week. It is the only time I've ever seen people all around that gate give this somebody a roaring round of applause. And I step back and I'm like, what did that man just do in 90 seconds that I think so many of us don't do in how we use our presence and how we communicate? Trust is built with 3 factors. You have to demonstrate all 3. So I want you to know what all 3 of them are. Number 1 is transparency. He was super transparent about what his expectations were, what we could expect to get out of the journey. So that's number 1. Number 2, he was super tactful in how we deliver the information. He, in fact, was even a little bit humorous. And number 3, above all else, is the idea of togetherness, that you make people feel like they're not in it alone. This is a team effort, and we are all in. Now, I'm an executive coach, so you know I'm about to ask you a tough question. In a second, I'm gonna ask you, out of those 3, which is your biggest opportunity as a GM? Now, here's what I mean by that. I've worked with a lot of people in our food service space that they bury their head in the sand and they don't have the conversations when they need to. Sometimes they put it off longer than they should. And so maybe for them, they need to be more transparent earlier on. Or maybe they're married or in a relationship where they don't speak up and tell their partner how they think, feel, or what they believe. And so transparency might be the thing that you need to work on. Number 2, tact. This is your ability to make people feel safe. Hey, this is a different program. I'm gonna give you a little tidbit here. We know from research that every one of us in this room have ego. I have ego, you got it, everyone in your sports bar has it. Your ego will always take your strength and turn it into your liability. So my strength is passion. But when my ego gets the best of me, my passion turns into intensity. And sometimes my intensity doesn't make it safe for other people. It can come out one of 2 ways. I might get so excited about what you're saying, I cut you off on accident because I'm in it with you. Or sometimes I get so strong in my belief that my intensity will really shut down a conversation. So I know for me, tact is my work. It's the thing that I've always got to be mindful of. Or the last one is togetherness. How many of you all have someone in your sports bar right now who is a high performer that is like the person that's like, just give it to me, I'll go do it myself? How many of you know that person in your sports bar? I'm going to tell you, togetherness is probably their work. I'm going to tell you from all the research I've done, most high performers are not good team players. I want you to hear that. Most high performers are not good team players because they're like, just give it to me, I'll go do it, and they detach themselves from the rest of the team. And so how do we make sure that people come together and feel, hey, you're not in this craziness alone? So out of those 3, what would you say is the one that you need the most work on? And I'm gonna have you share it at your table. Here's the good news. I know you're sitting with people from your area. They already know the answer about you. They just don't tell you to your face, all right? So they're like, it's tact. You really need to work on it, okay? Like they already know, all right? So I want you to look over. You don't have to have a conversation. Just tell them out of the 3, which one's your biggest opportunity. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. How many of you in the room said transparency is your work? Raise your hand if it's transparency. Yeah, it's always like 5-10% of the room. This happens everywhere I go. How many of you would say it's tact? It's always the majority, okay? Let me tell you about us. I'm in this with you, so this is not me picking on you. If you ever have a leader that says this, I'm just a truth teller, I just tell people how it is. What are they telling you when they say that? They're a jerk, okay? Every time. And here's why, because what they've learned to value more than anything is transparency. Oh, you're gonna know where I stand. The problem is sometimes they don't know how to keep people whole or take people with them and how they deliver the information. And so our job is to say, yes, keep speaking up. I'll always encourage that, but how you speak up makes a really big difference. How many of you all were on the other side that said, hey, I think it's togetherness? Yeah. Can I share this with you? I haven't shared this at the other conferences. I was coaching an executive, it was a male, and he didn't open up a lot to his wife. And he goes, Justin, it's not because I don't want to have to burden her. I don't want her to have to worry about it. And I literally look at him and I go, you realize that's rooted in control, right? You never gave her the option to deal with it. You made the choice for her. And what happens is she knows you well enough to know when you come home, something's going on, but you are not transparent with her. And so you walk out of the room to go deal with it by yourself. And now she's standing there having to deal with it by herself. And so now everyone is at the house dealing with everything alone. And so togetherness always takes a hit. And so that's when I said you can be married and be alone. You can be leading teams in a sports bar and still feel alone. And that's because oftentimes we don't always take people with us in that process. So if hopefully you have the one that you're like, listen, that's the one I need to work on. If someone said all three, that's another program. Y'all will deal with that later, okay? Okay, but I am going to give you some things to think about. But I also want to back it up with some science. I told you I don't want to just come up here and give you my opinion. This was MIT. MIT came out during the pandemic, and they went on to Glassdoor, and they studied 1.3 million of the negative reviews that team members and employees left about the company. And they wanted to understand what are the themes that all these negative workplaces have in common. There were 5 themes that came out, and I'm going to show you how they all relate to everything I just told you about trust. So you can see when you have a negative workplace culture, they're usually people acting unethical, so keeping stuff on the down low, doing stuff they shouldn't do. You have people that act non-inclusive, so you got cliques going on, or people like me don't move up in the company. I don't feel like I'm part of the team. And the last 3 were they were cutthroat, abusive, and this idea of being disrespectful. Now, think about the 3 elements of trust we just talked about: transparency, tact, and togetherness. If you have I'm going to use a sports bar analogy, but if in your sports bar you have people acting unethical, it's usually because there's a lack of which one? Transparency, tact, or togetherness? What would you say? It's transparency. So they're keeping stuff on the down low. Other people aren't going to know about it. If it's non-inclusive, then there's a lack of what? Togetherness. So I don't feel like I'm part of the team. Think about how many people we bring on that are brand new who feel like, oh, it's cliquey. I don't feel like I belong here in this group. And so right away, do we bring them in? And the last one, disrespectful, cutthroat, and abusive, it's always a lack of what? Tact. Because the environment that we've created doesn't actually feel safe. This is why I'm always going to say trust is the antidote to every toxic workplace. I would even dare to say every toxic relationship. And so this is not my opinion. We have spent years studying all of this craziness. And so I want to show you the model that we created. I do not have time to go through the whole thing, but I want to show you there is a method. So everything we talk about in my company is trust starts here. And when I say trust starts here, what we mean by that is that trust starts here with you, right now, in the way that all of you are in this room showing up. Are you on your phone not paying attention? Are you engaged and present? Are you interacting with the people beside you? It makes a difference. And so trust starts with you building trust in yourself. So that middle section that you just see is all of your ability to now develop your own self-trust, help your team members develop trust in themselves. This outer realm is, okay, once you've done that work, how do you develop trust with other people? And y'all, I want you to hear me when I say this. You cannot be in any long-term relationship, marriage, partner, company, without disappointing each other at some point. This executive team is going to have to make a decision one day where some of you aren't going to agree with it. And when trust gets hit, how do we actually repair trust that's been broken? Some of you are going to have a hard conversation with someone back in the sports bar. And when you have to have it, you better hope there's already been enough trust built up prior to so that they can actually hear the message that you're trying to say. That's what we mean when we say trust starts here. How are we showing up? So this is what I'm going to do in my commitment for the rest of the time we're together. I'm going to give you 6 trust moves that every one of you can go out of here and immediately use personal life and your professional life. And at the end of the day, at the end of this time we have together, I'm going to ask you, please don't go out of here and do all 6. I want you to pick one of these moves that you're like, I think this is the one that I need the most work on. Because I don't want to come up here and just talk about a bunch of random ideas. I want you to have some repeatable tactics that you can actually use. So this is where we're going to start. If I asked you, do you think trust is given or do you think it is earned? I want you to tell the person beside you, what do you think? Is trust given or is it earned? Okay, we already heard the answer, okay? Every time I ask that, what's the most common answer? And all I want to do is look at people and be like, God, who burned you? Because that's what happened. At some point, you gave trust to someone who abused that trust, and you're like, psychologically, nope, never again, never going to do that. And then what we do is we keep everyone at an arm's length distance, and everyone has to prove their trustworthiness to you. And I'm gonna tell you, if you wanna find a reason not to trust people, you will always find it. Colin Powell is one of my favorite books on leadership, and he said in his book that anytime you all take over a new team, your number one responsibility is to give complete trust to those people unless there's really credible reason not to. Because he says, watch what happens. Almost every time you give trust to someone, what do they typically do? Almost everyone will rise to the level of trust that they've been given. And so when I say is trust given or earned, we actually think it's both. I don't think it's one or the other. So we say, hey, trust is actually built. But I actually think the reason so many people in the room, and it's been the same at every conference we've been to so far, the most common answer is earned. And I think it's because of this. Giving trust is not easy. Why is giving trust, what makes it so difficult? It's vulnerable. Who said that? Yeah, it's vulnerable. And why is giving trust vulnerable? Yeah, I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna give a little bit, and there's no guarantee of what you're gonna do on the other side. And there's gonna be certain people, even in this room, who are like, I'm not willing to take that risk. And they never let people in. And so that's the people that are gonna be like, I feel like they're kind of cold, I feel like they're transactional, it's just about the numbers, because they never let them in. We have this view, when I talk about trust is built, it's the giving and the earning both. But I do think it also, when we talk about giving trust, you have to have self-trust. Because if you don't trust yourself enough to know, no matter what happens, no matter what you do with this trust I'm about to give you, I'm gonna be okay. I trust myself enough to know that I can handle whatever happens next. So I just wanna show you this slide. Some people are like, Justin, that sounds great, but what does giving trust actually look like in the sports bar? So I wanted to show you just a few things. To me, these are little ways that we give trust. We have the tough conversation that we've been putting off with someone. Hey, you all are really good at recognition. I'm gonna end the day with that, but you all are already doing it really well. So we recognize people. Maybe you're rolling out something and I know you don't always need somebody's feedback, but maybe I go to somebody and say, hey, I got an idea. Can I run it by you? This is togetherness. I'm bringing you in because I want to hear what you think about it. To me, it's also sharing information early. We don't blindside people. Trust never leaves people second guessing. So if anyone walks out of a conversation with me or you and they're not really sure what's next, I didn't do my job right. I didn't use my presence to build trust with those people. So here's my tactic that we have. For all of you that said earned, I'm going to challenge you. We have a view that we say, be first in, not all in, but first in. And here's why. I find that some people were so good at giving trust, but then they got burned over and over and over. Here's why we get burned. Because you kept giving trust to people who didn't earn the right to keep getting more of your trust. So when we say be first in, I want to challenge you to go back to your sports bar, be first into the tough conversation, be first into asking someone for their opinion on something, and then you step back and then you watch what they do with that little bit of trust that you give them. And based on that, do they earn even more trust along the way? So for all of you, this idea of maybe it's not about just earning, but maybe I can be first in, have enough self-confidence to do that, and then watch what people do. Now, I'm not gonna talk about this whole chart. This is the chart that you saw in the middle when I said you have to build self-trust. I know a lot of you said you have kiddos. I think one of your number one jobs as a parent is to build trust in them, that they believe in themselves. There are 6 ways based on science that we know we can help people build trust in themselves. How many of you all have a team member right now in the sports bar that you know lacks self-trust in themselves? Raise your hand if you know that person. So many of us know who that is. We know that they can move up in the organization, but they've got to start believing in themselves. If they don't believe in themselves, this is why you will never get a break. Because every time you go home and they have to make a decision, what are they going to do? They are gonna call and text you because they don't believe in their own decision making, so they need to check in with you for everything, and it's exhausting. So I'm gonna just tell you about 3. What we know is your voice is directly connected to your confidence. So that top tactic around speak up is really important. This idea of I wanna know what you think and what you feel and what you believe, and giving people the space to do it. Number 2, I wanna talk about honor who you are. Everyone gets on this stage, and you're gonna hear a lot of people talk about authenticity. Now, y'all, I'm a big believer in it, but I also think authenticity is really hard. Why is authenticity hard? We all talk a good game about being authentic, but it is hard. Why is that? Because some people aren't gonna like the authentic version of you, and you have to get okay with it. Who said people pleaser? Here's what's interesting about what you said. When you can't get okay with people maybe not liking you, what you do is become a people pleaser in life. And what we do is we wear a mask everywhere. We wear a mask at church trying to please them. We wear a mask in our marriage. We wear a mask in the sports bar. And we wear a mask everywhere trying to be the person we think we need to be. And then what we do is we lose ourselves in the process. And so part of authenticity is getting so clear about, I know who I am, and I'm willing to accept the rewards and the consequences that come with maybe people not liking me. And here's the last one, it's in purple, that I love. We always ask people when they're really working on their self-trust, I want you to go on an advice detox. And what we mean by that is for like 2 or 3 weeks, you don't get to ask anyone, what do you think I should do? Because someone who lacks trust, every time they have to make a decision, they'll say to you, hey, what would you do in this situation? And what happens is they have outsourced their decision making to everyone else. They don't even believe in themselves anymore. So this idea of, if you have kiddos or all of you growing people on your team, what are just 1 or 2 of those that you could use to actually help develop the self-trust of some of those people? So tip number 1 that all of you can repeat when you leave here is, I want you to be first in. Be first in to giving trust to other people. So if you want to write it down, it's on the back of the handout. Be first in to giving trust. Now, we started out today and I said, hey, trust is your biggest competitive advantage. If that is true, then silence is your biggest threat. Tell the person beside you why that's true. If trust is your biggest competitive advantage, why is silence your biggest threat? Take 10 seconds. All right, what do you got for me? Why might that be true? Yeah.
Silence breeds imagination.
Yeah. So you said silence breeds imagination. I'm going to tell you why. So Brene Brown, famous leadership person, her and Simon Sinek are probably the 2 most famous right now in the world. She says this line that's similar to what you said. She goes, when people don't have all the information, they fill it in with fear. And what happens is they start creating stories based on no facts. And usually those stories are so much worse than the truth actually is. So spot on. So this idea is, and I think think about your sports bar. Let's say we get it wrong with somebody that comes in. The worst thing that could happen is they leave without telling us, because they never give us the opportunity to make it right with them. And so this idea of how do we create this place where people can be safe enough to open up to me. I think there's 3 reasons why people stay silent. I just wanted to show you this. I think number 1, it's not all about you. Part of it is, it could be that they lack self-confidence. So if your kiddo or someone on your team lacks self-confidence, oftentimes they're not going to speak up anyways. Number 2, this is the one I see the most often in leadership. They are being led by a leader who leads out of fear. And this idea is there's a climate of fear and I don't feel like it's safe enough to actually speak up. And number 3, this is the one that all of us in this room should be worried about. Anybody in a long-term relationship, this happens sometimes. We get busy being busy, and unfortunately we take advantage of each other, and someone's like, I've tried speaking up in this relationship so much, it's just not even worth my time and energy and I'm exhausted. And so they start to give up. And so what happens is, this is why people stay silent. All relationships can handle the truth. What they can't handle is silence and secrecy. That's what's going to destroy the trust. So how many of you in this room said transparency was your work? There was about 10% of you. I'm going to give, your tactic is this one right here. This is what I'm going to really challenge you with over the next week. So we have this idea that says trust always happens below the surface. So what we mean by, if you've ever heard the research on an iceberg, how much of an iceberg do they say actually is underwater? They say like 90%. It's the majority. I find that's the same with how we speak in leadership. So most of what we communicate to our teams happens above the water. Here's the new policy. This is the new bonus structure. This is the new products we're rolling out. All of that happens above the water. Below the water is where trust is built. It's why we made the decision we made. It's the emotions that are coming up about what maybe we're not talking about. This is what I loved about the leadership team yesterday. When I was listening to Phil and John Kelly and the leadership team talking, when they said, hey, we know we can do a better job at transparency, so these are all the things that we're going to implement over the next year. When they were doing the panel, they had to answer some tough questions from you all. They're like, we're not going to shy away from them. We're going to talk about it. We can talk about hard things at this company. And part of that is getting below the water. And below the water are the emotions. So I'm feeling, how many of you all feel like there is someone on your team that you're like, I've had the same conversation 5 times and I'm just exhausted? Raise your hand if you've been that person. Yeah. So instead of just trying to fix the behavior, I would go to the person and say, I'm exhausted and I'm overwhelmed with where to go in our relationship. Because I've had the same conversation with you 5 times, and every time we talk about it, you tell me you're gonna fix it and you know what you need to do, but then literally 1 week later, we're right back in here and doing the same thing, and I no longer know how to help you. So where do we go from here? And part of that is me going below the water to express what it is that I'm really feeling. The other thing is why we make the decisions we make. Can I give you just a quick example? During the pandemic, I was working with the Solar Energy Industry Association. Abby, CEO, amazing female executive. Now you all, she thought pretty early on that it was gonna be really bad for that company, the pandemic. So she brings her entire staff together, and instead of being on top of the water saying, making up something, she goes underneath the water and said, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little nervous about what this might mean for our business if the pandemic keeps going the way it's going. So she says, this is my commitment to every one of you in the room. I will never blindside you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get together every Friday, and every Friday for the rest of the pandemic, I'm gonna inform you of the choices we as an executive team are making. She goes, you might not like every decision, but I will never blindside you with that decision. They eventually had to lay off 7 people. They cut all 401k matching. They cut all executive pay by 25% and all employee pay by I think 10 or 15% just to survive as a company. I went back after the pandemic, they reinstated all that stuff, and I wanted to understand what happened to the culture because of how she responded and how transparent she was. Every person I talked to said the culture today was better than it ever was before. They didn't love every decision that she made, but they never felt she blindsided them in the process. She took them with her the entire way. So for all of you that said, hey, I think transparency is my work, number 2 is I want you to be able to kind of show your why. Can you show your why to people? Why we're making the decision we're making, why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. They don't have to agree with it, but trust doesn't leave people second guessing. All right, here's a big question. One of the groups at B-Dubs threw me back a little bit by the answer. So I'm gonna give you the question, and we're gonna talk about what you think based on your experience. Harvard Business Review came out, and they asked people just like you, as a leader, is it better to be loved or is it better to be feared? Now here's how they define those words. Loved were the leaders that used their presence to demonstrate warmth and empathy and all that. And the idea of being feared was the leaders that used their presence and their strength, their confidence, and their smarts to get results. So based on that, do you think it's better to be loved or do you think it's better to be feared? Take 15 seconds to tell the person beside you. All right, what do you got for me? How many of you all said it is better to be loved? Raise your hand. Yeah, how many of you said it's better to be feared? All right, now I'm gonna give you the research. I got so taken back by the other group that most of the people are like, feared, and I was so taken back that I forgot to give them the answer. So I wanna make sure I give you the answer. So the answer is they're both important, but one has to come before the other. Which one has to come first? It is love, and here's why. It is that the only way to take people with you and to get trust and to create influence is through that idea of warmth and empathy. And I'm gonna tell you, there's no research to back up what I'm about to say. Might offend somebody in this room, but I want you to know after coaching so many people, I believe this. Fear takes no talent. I want you to hear that. Leading out of fear takes no talent. And anybody can leave this room and they can go back to their sports bar, and I'm gonna tell you, it will work. Why will leading out of fear, why will it work? People need jobs. They need to take care of their families. They need paychecks. So you'll get commitment from people, but you will never get their compliance. The hardest question I was ever asked in a room like this happened. There was a guy right here in the middle, and he raises his hand in front of everybody, goes, all right, I get it. But he goes, if all of this is true, then why do so many jerks actually make it to the top of organizations? And I'm gonna tell you, he's right. There is only one reason that happens. When the organization only cares about results and not how people get the results, they will always reward bad behavior, always. And this is what I love when I was listening to Phil yesterday, and he was sharing his model yesterday. He said, at the core of everything that we believe is people. That is not the same everywhere I go, not even the same in the food service space. And this idea of, listen, we're gonna get numbers, you are gonna continue to grow this business, but we are gonna do it through people, not in spite of people. That is just a different way of leading. Now, Google studied the highest performing teams in that company, and they were like, what do the highest performing teams do differently than every other team? It took them over 2 years to whittle it all down. They studied people hanging outside of work together. They studied education level. The only factor they could figure out were the teams that outperformed every other team had psychological safety on them, where every other team did not. That was it. Now, every one of you that are parents, which is the majority of you, I'm gonna give you an invitation. I want you to take a picture of the next slide. So I want you to take a picture of this, and I'll tell you why. I want you to have this on your camera roll when you go back home, and you're gonna be going through your camera one day, the next month, or the next week, and I want you to be able to pull up this photo and be like, why is this crazy photo on the screen? Here's why. Dr. Amy Edmondson, she coined the term, and the term of psychological safety is, if I come to you as a parent, if I come to you as a general manager, that I will not be shamed, judged, criticized, or humiliated. That's it. And the reason I had all of you as parents do it, I've coached a lot of parents who say, Justin, I just want my kiddos to open up to me. There's only one reason our kiddos don't open up, is if I go to you, it only takes once or twice of us getting it wrong and not showing up the right way, and their little brains say, never again, can't go to mom or dad. And then they have to find another outlet, whether it be a friend or online or some other way. And I always say, I hope, I don't always get it right, but I hope I can use my presence to make people feel, at least, I might not agree with your decision, but you will not be shamed, judged, criticized, or humiliated. This idea of trust is not touchy-feely. Everyone's like, oh, we're talking about that touchy-feely stuff. Trust is not comfortable, but it should be safe. We are firing people. We are laying people off. We have to have tough conversations. Trust isn't comfortable, but it can be safe in how we deliver it. Now, there's a term in leadership. It's called your emotional wake. Y'all say yes if you can get down with this, that everywhere you go, you leave an emotional imprint on people, yes? Everywhere. Bank, sports bar, grocery store, doesn't matter. Now, so think about this. If we all got on a boat today and we all start heading this way in the boat, what happens to the wake behind the boat the further out we get? It gets bigger. So what happens is you and I have an interaction today, and someone comes to your sports bar, they have an interaction with their server, and then they leave your sports bar, and then what do? They go tell someone else. And more dangerously, or even more awesomely, they go on social media, and what starts out small gets really big very quickly. The best leaders I've ever worked with, they take responsibility for the emotional wake that they leave. Now, I'm gonna tell you when I got it wrong. I am not proud of the moment I'm about to tell y'all, but I want to be real and honest with you. There were about 10 or 15 years ago, I was in Canada speaking, coming home. It was early in the morning, y'all. I got through that little x-ray machine, and I go over here, and the TSA agent is checking a man's bag, and all these bins are in that little conveyor belt so no one's bags could come out. So I stand back patiently. I wait for the TSA agent to get done, and when she gets done, she hands the man his backpack, and I walk over there, and I go to slide the bins down so the bag could start coming out. I don't know what that did to the TSA agent, but when I went to slide the bins down, she grabs the last one really hard so that I couldn't move them, and in my Kentucky Southern passive-aggressive way, I jerk my head up, and I go, bless her heart. No, she did not just do that to me, okay? And for all of you laughing, you are my people because you know what bless your heart means, okay? And without thinking, I'm not proud of this, without thinking about it, I was like, I'll show her. I walked over, I stacked every bin on top of one another, slid the last bin down and said, fine, I'll do your job for you. That did not go well with TSA. Do not do that at the airport. Do not. And all of a sudden, she and I start yelling at each other in the middle of the Toronto airport. I finally get my backpack. I take 20 steps down the terminal, and I stop. And I'm standing there. It's one of the first times in my life. I'm standing there, and all these people are going by me, and all I can think about is, I teach people for a living to take responsibility for their energy. And I didn't. So now I have a choice to make. I'm telling you, because you're going to leave this room at the end of the day and go back home, and you are going to get it wrong at some point. And when you get it wrong, I want you to remember, this is what that crazy guy was talking about. Now you have a choice. So I know how I am. I was like, I'm obsessed about it. I'll be like, I shouldn't have done that. Or I'm going to go take accountability for my part in the craziness. Y'all, I still to today do not agree with how that woman acted. But it wasn't about her. I didn't use my presence to show up the way I wanted. So right or wrong, I start making my way back to TSA, okay? It's not gonna go well, get ready, okay? So I'm making my way back, And this is not dramatic. This is exactly how it goes down. She's turned around talking to her coworker. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And in slow motion, she turns her head around and she goes, "What?" Like this, okay? I knew it was gonna be good when she did the neck thing, okay? And without blinking, I just said, "Ma'am, I need to tell you that I'm sorry. You did not deserve the way that I talked to you, and I owe you an apology." And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, I don't accept your apology." And I knew, but y'all know what I was thinking, right? Bless her heart, okay? I thought it, okay? But I had it together at this point. Emotional intelligence had kicked in, and I looked at her. I said, "Ma'am, you don't have to accept it, but I just feel like I owe that to you." And I go, "I hope you have a good day." And without missing a beat, she looks at me and she goes, "Well, I hope you have a bad one." And she walks away, and I was like, who does that to people, okay? But there is only one reason I took 20 steps down the terminal and I stopped. I'm gonna do an exercise with you. You all? This is the most important exercise we're gonna do. Every one of you, I cannot stress enough, this is the exercise you should go back to your sports bar and do with your team. And so to do that, I need one volunteer. Listen, I'm gonna ask for 2 volunteers today. I'm always gonna make you look like a star in front of your people. So I'm never gonna challenge you, make you look crazy. I will always make you look like a star. But I'm gonna ask you 2 questions so that they know how to go back to their sports bar and do it with their team. So who doesn't mind volunteering? I'm gonna give you a second to think about it. All right, you wanna do it? Come on up here. Everybody give her some love, first of all. Thank you, Megan. All right, tell me your name. Ashley, Justin, nice to meet you. I'm gonna give you this, it's already on, so you'll be good. So Ashley, I'm gonna ask you 2 questions. Every one of you, come over in the center. Every one of you, I want you to know what the 2 questions are if you need to write it down, because this is what I'm gonna challenge you to do back at your sports bar. Ashley, I'm gonna ask you, what is just one moment in life that you are really proud of how you were able to show up in that moment? Now I'm gonna give you a bunch of examples so you don't have to think about it, okay? Usually when somebody says, "Hey, what's one moment when you look back on your life you're proud of how you showed up?" A lot of people will say, "Well, do you mean personally or do you mean professionally?" What do you think I would say? It shouldn't matter, because you should be the same person in every room. And so I've had people stand on this stage and said, "Reading a bedtime story to my kiddo." I've had other people say, "Winning an award, I worked really hard for." Giving a presentation that I was like, I worked really hard and I was so nervous, but I got through it. I've had 2 men at Ford Motor Company stand on this stage, worst thing a parent will ever go through. Both of them lost their child. And they said, in the lowest point of my life, when everything is falling apart, I was proud of how I showed up for my spouse and the rest of my family. It doesn't always have to be sad. But what is just one moment when you look back, you're like, you know what? I was proud of how I was able to show up in that moment. What is that moment for you?
I also lost a child. That would be mine.
Yeah.
Showing up afterwards.
Yeah. And no one should have to go through that. And here's what I want you to do. That's okay. And here's the most important part. When you have that memory, I want you to tell me, you said, "Listen, in the lowest point of my life, I'm still proud of how I showed up for other people." And even yourself, what were the top 3 actions that you were able to demonstrate that allowed you to show up your best? What would you say those top 3 actions are?
Patience.
Yeah, patience.
Understanding. And forgiveness.
I love that. Here's why what she just did is important. Would you, now, that's in your personal life. Even as are you a GM? Even as a GM, would you say to me, is it Ashley? Ashley, would you say, as a GM, when I'm really at my best at that sports bar, I'm also patient, I'm also understanding, and I'm also forgiving? How true does that feel to you?
Every single day.
Yeah. And what's the cost to every GM in this room when they don't know what their 3 words are, who they are at their best, or even their team? What's the cost of not knowing those for yourself?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Do you know how many people say to me, "Justin, I'm just doing the best I can"? And I literally look at them and I say, "Based on what? What's the vision that you're holding yourself accountable to?" And what I love is, like, we all get sucker punched in life, right? And none of us get out without going through some crap. And to say, even when I'm at my lowest, I'm able to show up my best when I really focus. Doesn't mean I deny my feelings, but I'm able to still be patient, understanding, and this idea of forgiveness. I don't usually do this here, but I'm just going to say, Ashley, I think it takes a lot of courage to get in front of your peers and to share a little bit of your heart and a little bit of your story. And
I didn't expect to do
that's
that,
okay.
so.
And no person, no parent, no human being should ever have to experience that. We are proud of you for your strength and your ability to forgive the whole situation and continue to show up every day, even when it's hard. And you're the type of person that continues to make this brand a really great place, and we're proud of you. Can we give her some love? I'm proud of you. I'm going to give you a book, okay? Hold on. There you go, my friend. Trace, you got it. You got it. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about for yourself, what would you say are the 3 words that you have when you're at your best? Y'all, the only reason I walked down the terminal and stopped at the Toronto airport, I know when I'm at my best, I am confident, I am fully present, and I am empathetic. And I was like, not present, not empathetic. And now I have a choice to make. Every one of you, your marriage will improve, the way you parent improves, the way you lead as a general manager will improve when you get really clear about what your 3 words are and you start to live those out. I even think about, when we talk about bringing the wings analogy to life, I don't want any of our team members in our sports bar, I don't want to coach you to be someone you're not. I want to figure out who are you when you're at your best and how do we help them live that out. Actually, I didn't say this. I'm going to say one final thing here. This technique, I don't usually tell people, but I call this, when you know what the answer is, I call it home base. So your home base is different than his home base, right? And to say, and y'all, we're human, we are gonna have bad days. Some of y'all, I'm not gonna talk about some of y'all's driving. I've seen how some of y'all drive, okay? And what happens, somebody cuts you off and then we start acting crazy. And part of our job, I have never had one executive in my career or one GM ever say, at my best, I'm condescending, arrogant, and a jerk. No one has ever done that, y'all, okay? But what happens is, they go in and their team says, arrogant, condescending, a jerk. And so my job is to say, come home to yourself. When you have a bad day, when things aren't going well, can you recognize that you've even stepped out? And don't just give yourself a pass saying, I'm just doing the best I can. What is home base? And your job is to come home to yourself for you and also for your team. So number 3 is I want you to be able to check your heat. How many of you all sit in this room, tact was your work? I think it was the majority of you. You all, this is the exercise that is really gonna help you be more tactful and use your presence in a different way, all right? All right, I'm gonna move this along. Number 4, this actually, I think was Tony Robbins studied couples that were married for long periods of time and that were happy. Y'all, that's the kicker. I told you, you can be married and miserable. And he said, what do the couples that stay together and happy do differently than all these other couples? There was only one factor. I'm gonna give your table 20 seconds. I want you all to try to agree on one answer that these couples do this, that stay together and happy. What is that one thing they do? 20 seconds. Here we go. We're gonna start in the back. Hey, all my people back there in the back, I want you to yell it out really loud. If these couples that stay together and happy, what do they do differently? Okay, communication. What'd you say? I heard something about sleeping. Say, go on, say it. There's no answer you're gonna say that I haven't. I've heard time away from each other. You name it, I've heard it. What'd y'all say? Sleep? Oh, sleep in separate, I thought you said sleep divorce. I was like, well, that'll do it, okay? So, yeah, sleep in separate rooms. What else did y'all get? Yeah, listening, laughing with each other. Anything different over here? Compromise. Here was the answer. They said the only thing these couples do differently was they kept giving to each other where every other couple had stopped. That's it. We got busy raising kids, we got busy in our careers, we got busy in the sports bar, and the very thing that brought us together, we stopped doing. I'm gonna prove it. Y'all, think about when you got together with someone. Doesn't matter if you're together right now or not. When you first got together, your job was to make that person feel sexy, valued, and special. What were some of the trust is not built in the big things. Trust is built in the small, meaningful moments. What were some of the small, meaningful moments that you did early on to build trust with somebody? I know it's been a while when it gets real quiet. You're like, I don't know, it's been a long time, okay? What would you say are some of the small things we did? You sent a text, right? What'd you say? You spent time? Yeah, right? You show up, you engage, you do things that they like, all this. It's funny, when I was at Ford, there was a guy here, he goes, I used to open the car door. And I looked at him, I go, well, how long's it been? He goes, 14 years, okay? So I was like, okay, maybe you need to open the door again, right? But this idea, let me bring it back to leadership. So this Stephen Covey, famous leadership guy, he says, every relationship in your life right now, in the sports bar, in your personal life, there is a bank account of trust between you and the other person. And you're either putting trust deposits into that bank account or you are taking them out. Those are your only two options. And so part of us, as you as a GM, is to say, am I being intentional about putting those trust deposits in. Let me tell you why that's important. This guy right here, Dr. John Gottman, is the world's leading researcher on relationships. And what they found was for every negative experience or remark or conflict that we have with somebody, it takes 5 of positive things to counteract that, which is why you all are gonna have to go back at some point and have a tough conversation with someone on your team or someone even in your relationship. We have got to make sure we've done enough deposits on the front end so that they don't bail out. If there's a negative of this talk, it's this slide right here. I need you to hear this. All relationships end when people become emotionally bankrupt. That is it. It's why people get divorced. One partner takes more out of the relationship than they're putting in, and the other partner will finally say, enough is enough. I'll go start a bank account by myself, or I'll go start it with someone else over here. It's why people leave companies. They'll be like, I have put more into B-dubs than I'm getting back, and I'm gonna go across town to this job over here. Or you might have to look at someone on your team one day and say, we have poured more into that person than we are getting back. Enough is enough, it's time to leave. And so this idea that we all relationships end when we get emotionally bankrupt. So the thing that I want to give you is this idea of, can you make these really small trust deposits in your relationship? Now, I'm going to give you a couple resources today. You don't have to download any of it, but if you want to, I want to make sure you have something you can use. This is a QR code. It is not going to ask you for your email or do anything like that, but I gave you a 28-day challenge. If you want to go out in 2 minutes or less per day and you want to make some of these trust deposits, it's going to give you a big list of what to do. And so we try to create that for you. If you don't do 28 days, maybe you do 5. 5 is better than 0. So could you go out there and say, you know what? I'm going to recognize someone today. I'm going to ask for someone's opinion on something. How do we continue to make these trust deposits in the relationship? Now, I'm not going to ask you to do this next slide right now, but you're about to go have a break when I'm done here, and you're going to go out there. And when you go out there, I'm going to challenge you to send a text message or make a phone call, but a text message is probably easier for most of you, to someone either on your team or someone in your personal life. And I want you to make a trust deposit with them, and I want you to watch what happens in their response. So here's an example. You might say, hey, just on a quick break, can't wait to see you when I get home later tonight. You're going to learn a lot about yourself based on the response. If they're like, what'd you do in Vegas? Okay, like, if that's the response, they're probably telling you, you don't do this enough, you just changed who you are, what's going on? Some of you might text someone that's an assistant back in your sports bar and say, hey, thanks for holding things down while I've been gone for a couple days. I don't tell you enough, but I really appreciate it. I'm making that up, but I want you to make a trust deposit, and I want you to see what happens on the other side. So number 4 is I want you to make this trust deposit, okay? Every one of you, that is such an easy, repeatable thing that all of us can do back in the sports bar. Can you make these consistent trust deposits? Thank you, Megan. All right, here's the next one. Now, so many of you probably in your career have heard this idea of empathy. Now, I don't want to teach it to you. I want you to experience it in real time, the impact that it actually has. Empathy is not putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That is impossible. It is literally listening to someone and being able to acknowledge that their experience and feelings are real to them. And I want you to watch my body language as I have this conversation so that I can show you what you can do differently when you leave here. So I need one more volunteer that I can actually do this exercise. So come on up here. Everybody give him some love. All right, so what we're gonna do is, while we're having this conversation, I need you to do 2 things. I want you to watch my body language, and I want you to listen to my words, because I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna ask you what you observed. Tell me your name. George, Justin. Nice to meet you. Here you go. All right, we're gonna sit here. I'm gonna ask you like 3 or 4 questions. We're just gonna come up, whatever comes up the top of my head. Everyone, you watch my body language and listen to my words and tell me what you notice once this conversation's over. All right, George, tell us someone you admire more than anyone else in the world. Like, who's that person for you?
Wow, that's a hard question. My mother.
Yeah, and for those of us that don't know your mama, what is it about her that makes her so darn special?
Just growing up, seeing her, seeing her, my mom took care of 6 kids by herself, so she always looked like she had it together, even when it was rough. So that's why I admire her.
And there's, even as you talk about her, it's probably this just pride and just immense respect that you have for this woman, to know everything that she's been through and how she never gave up on herself, her 6 kiddos and other people, and it's probably just really admiring. Yeah. Take me back to the pandemic. What was the hardest part for you and your family that maybe you all had to go through that no one in this room knows you had to go through?
So during the pandemic, I worked at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's for years, and I had just had another kid. I have, 8 kids now? So it's a lot.
Bless you.
During the pandemic, I was only, I think, around my 4th kid.
So you had 4 during the pandemic.
Yeah,
okay,
so I was crazy, yeah, it just happened like
He's
that.
like, we don't got much to do around here.
There's nothing else to do. So we had just had another kid right before the pandemic, and we had a newborn at home, but I still had to go to work and make sure that, I was able to take care of my kids. So the hardest thing I had to do is sacrifice being around my family to actually go to work, because at the time it was more of newborns, and my wife had asthma at the time, so those were the people that were at high risk. And I had 4 kids, so the newborn, and then I still had a baby at the time. So it was really hard to be around them. So even when I got home, they would be either in bed or away, so I had to try to stay away. It was rough for me.
Yeah. I would say there's 2 things. I would think it's stressful to know that I've got to take care of this family, but I also got to make sure that I go to work so that I can provide. But then it's a little lonely that I have to provide so much that I'm not able to probably spend the time that I want. And especially in that pandemic, it was hard for everybody. Yeah. Last question for you. What is something that you're proud of yourself for that maybe you don't give yourself enough credit for?
Being a good dad. I have 8 kids. I just said that. So it's hard. It is exhausting, actually. But it is amazing, all at the same time, to be able to come home and see my hard work every day on the kids. What you say, you make an impact every day emotionally. You leave an emotional wake. So I love it when my kids come home and they can tell me about their day, or they can tell me it's really enjoying to see how they handle problems and how they grow with their friends and with us as adults, how they're able to speak out and say stuff when you don't. Sometimes it's the craziest thing that you ever hear. You're like, what the heck? I can't believe she just said it, but they say it, and it's like, oh my God, she knows how to express herself. So.
I've never said this way, but I think it's probably overwhelming on both spectrums. Overwhelming, sometimes stressful and providing and not being there, but overwhelming and the greatest joy that you could ever experience, and being able to have a family and this legacy that you're building. Yeah, everybody give him some love, first of all. Stay here. All right. Here's what I want you to know. When we talk about body language and empathy, there are 4 gestures that I demonstrated to really try to be present and create empathy with someone. Body language is not about what you want it to mean. It's about perception. So what's the perception? So what did you all notice that I was doing during this conversation? All right, here's why. When we lean forward, what's the perception? That I'm listening, that I care, that I'm here. So that's number 1. Number 2, I told you the most honest part of the body was what? It is your feet. So George, I could have sat in a meeting or in a room and I could have looked at you like this. I could look at you with my face and eyes. Does this energy feel different than when I turn to you and I talk to you like this? Does that feel different?
It feels like you're engaged.
Yeah, it's more engaged. I'm here, right? Number 3, what else did y'all notice? Okay, men, pay attention. I don't talk about gender differences very much, but most men only look straight forward, and the only time they nod is when what? When they agree. They're like, yep, let's move on. So only men answer this. Men, when you're talking to a woman and she tilts her head like this and she nods her head, how do you interpret that, men? You screwed up. What else? This is why some of y'all are gonna I'm about to help you not get divorced, okay? This is not, that is not what it means, by the way. Unless it's fast, this means you better hurry it up, okay? But this idea, when I'm talking to George and I slowly tilt and nod my head, this is empathy. It is not agreement. It means I'm here. Like, wow, okay? So it's the idea of empathy. There's one more thing that some of you probably can't really see, but what else do you think it is?
Eye contact.
Okay, it's eye contact. Out of 100% eye contact, how much do you think we should generally maintain with someone out of 100%? Just make some guesses. 80, 90, stop it, it's creepy, no one likes it, okay? So the research would say anything above 80 is actually considered what?
A little scary.
They don't use the word creepy in research, but they would say anything above 80 is considered intimidation. So if you could tell, there were some moments George was thinking, and while George was thinking, what did I actually do with my eye contact? I broke it on purpose. And I'm trying, this goes back to psychological safety. My job is to make George feel safe. So I'm giving him the moment to think about it, and then I re-engage. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, you had that much fun during the pandemic, okay? So, right? So understanding how we show up makes a difference. But you said I repeated my words. This is why what you just said is really important. Every one of you can do this formula right today. So someone is going to message you with some extreme emotion, either positive or negative. You might have your kids be like, I can't stand school, or I can't stand my whatever. And in that moment, they don't need you to fix them. People do not need to be fixed. They need to be heard. I did the same formula every time that you heard me talk to George. So George, we talked about your mama. I said, I didn't start out with of course you feel, but it's of course you feel blank. And in the blank, you insert the emotion. So when you talked about your mom, I said, I can see the sense of pride and level of respect that you have, because now you have to go deeper than what he just said, because you probably know everything that woman's had to go through. And no matter what, she kept showing up for you, her children, and everyone else in life. And it's pretty inspiring. And when I got done, what did George do? What did he say? He nodded his head and he said, yes. Then we got to the pandemic. 8 kids. I said, it must be stressful to have to take care of that many kids and want to be around them, but you also got to take care of your family. It's a pandemic and it was really hard. And when I was done, what did he say? He said, yes. And then we got to the last thing and I said to you, hey, what is something you're proud of you don't give yourself enough credit for? And you said being a parent. And I said, it must be overwhelming to obviously handle all that responsibility, but also to have such immense joy that comes with that. And when I was done, what did he say? He said, yes. I need you to hear me when I say this. Anytime you do when you all leave here, please, you do not have to leave and be like, of course you feel. Please do not do that, okay? You can start it however you want. I get why you're overwhelmed. Heck yeah, you're excited. But anytime someone says yes to you, what are they telling you?
That they agree.
That you see me. This is my favorite quote of all time. If there was one quote that I think would change how GMs show up every day, it comes from Oprah. She said, everyone in life just wants to know 3 things. They want to know, do you see me? Do you hear me? And does what I say mean anything to you? That's it. And so here's what I'm going to end with you, George. I think, just like my friend over here, Ashley, it takes a lot of courage in front of your peers. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story. Thanks for bringing the humanity in, being a father of 8. I think you show up naturally with that type of energy into your sports bar. And I think it's that type of energy that makes a big difference and makes people feel connected with you. And it's really important for the brand. Everybody give George some love.
Thank you.
I'm proud of him. Let me give you this book. There you go, brother. Thank you. All right. So, number 5 is I want you to be able to lead with empathy. So on your handout, number 5 that all of you can do is this idea, thank you, Megan, this idea that you can lead with empathy in whatever you do. Yes, you're gonna give your feedback, you might give an opinion, but can you start with empathy first? Here's the last thing, and if there's one thing I know after working with B-Dubs over the last kind of month and a half, is how good you all are at making people feel seen. This idea of recognition. Every one of you came in here, and I know you had a duck sitting at your table. Now, first of all, how many Jeep owners do we have in the room, right? So I know you all got this right away. I'm a Jeep owner as well. And for everyone else, so my Jeep owners don't share this, everyone else, you're never gonna unsee what I'm about to tell you. Anytime you're driving down the interstate or the road, you're gonna pass a Jeep. What will you see in the dashboard of every Jeep? You are gonna see ducks lined up in their dashboard. And why do you think, someone that's not a Jeep owner, do you know why they're there? So we actually leave them on each other's door handles everywhere we go. So all Jeep owners typically have ducks in their Jeep. And what happens, there was a lady in Canada who actually started, it was having a bad day, and she wanted to turn things around. So she wanted to make people's day and make it a little brighter. So she left these ducks on other Jeep owners, and the story went viral. And it became a thing that we do in our community to look at other people in our tribe to say, I see you, and I'm really glad you're part of our tribe. And so it's like nice duck and Jeep, and so we leave a duck on each other's door handle. So we leave, when I come back from the post office or the airport or wherever, oftentimes there will be a duck on the door handle wherever I go. So when I'm telling you that story is, here's what I do not want you to do. Please do not go give that duck to your kid. If you need an extra, I brought some extras in the back, all right? So there are some more back there. But I'm gonna ask that you put that duck in your office somewhere, that you're gonna see it every day as a reminder, did I make someone feel seen that day? I want you to use it as a metaphor, as a way that we see each other. And did you see someone that day? Now, you all have heard this. I'm not gonna read these stats. There is so much data on the power of recognition. You all, I know you even have the recognition cards within the sports bar. I've been in it, I did a tour, I've seen them. So I know you already have all the stuff to do it. One of the things I'm gonna give you though is this. There's a handout right here if you decide you wanna use it. We created this in my company. It's a personalized recognition form. So we ask every employee to fill this out. You don't need to do this. We actually ask every client as well. So we're finding out, what are your favorite things? What's your favorite local restaurant? What's your favorite cologne or perfume? What's your favorite snack? And when it comes time to recognize somebody, we have an entire list of their favorite things now that we can actually personalize the recognition to them. If you use the QR code in the beginning, it's the same QR code. You're gonna see an arrow. You just can pull over, and both of those handouts are actually gonna be there. So this idea of, can you personalize recognition? So every one of you have a personal recognition card in front of you. Can you all hold that up? Take that, I wanna see the recognition card. Make sure you all have one. This is my invitation. If there's one thing about this brand that I know that you all know how to do, it's to make people feel seen and loved. So here's my challenge. I'm gonna give you 24 hours. I want you to give that recognition card to someone. I don't care if it doesn't have to be anyone in the brand. It could be someone in the hotel. It could be someone on the AV team. It could literally be anyone. You could take it back to your hotel room, give it to your spouse, or give it to a partner, someone you're here with. Can you find one person doing some good and give it to them? Can I tell you the reason we say find the good? I was interviewing someone in our food service industry who was an operator, and he said, as an operator, my entire life, they taught us how to find the things that aren't working. But he goes, no one ever taught me how to find the good. And so this idea is his entire culture in his restaurant, you're all sports bar, the entire culture started shifting when he started finding the good and recognizing it. And I'm the type of person, I don't like to just get up here and give you some stuff. I want to practice what I preach. So before I leave, I want to do two things of recognition. And I'm going to ask both of these people to come on stage with me. I'm going to ask, first of all, Annie. I want Annie to come on up here. So Annie, come up here, and everyone give Annie some love. And the second person, I want Rachel to come on up here. So Rachel, come up here as well. Everybody give Rachel some love. All right. Now, here's some stuff. I know you know Rachel and stuff, and many of you might know Annie, but Annie has been the photographer at many of these events, and I've now got the chance to work with you, I think like 4 times now. And so I want to tell you what I see in you and what I really appreciate. So I give these big ducks out to other people, okay? So you get this little big duck. But it says, Annie, you light things up in the subtle way that your presence makes people feel safe and seen. You are a bright light in what can sometimes feel like a dark world. And I hope you keep shining and keep capturing moments of people that really matter and that they remember forever. It's really important. Everybody give her some love, please. There you go, that one's yours. Appreciate you. And then stay here. And then my friend Rachel. All right, come on over here, Rachel. So I know you all know her. You've been with her for a long time. I would not be having this opportunity without you. And I think there are people in life that open doors for people. And I think you haven't just opened doors for me. I know there's been so many people that you've opened doors for. And I just put, hey, Rachel, I put you light things up in the way that you pour your whole self into other people. You see the best in others, you help them believe in themselves even more, and you give people the chance to shine. You've changed many people for the better, and we're really proud of you. Can you all stand up and give them both some love, please? Thank you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you. Okay. Take your moment. All right. let's bring this bad boy home a couple things. So, number 6, last thing I want you to write down is I want you to be able to find the good, and I want you to be able to recognize it when you find it. It's gonna have, there are so many moments that you're gonna see the good. Can you just find the good and recognize it? All right, let me bring this home. Everyone goes through these programs, and they're like, that was great, but what the heck do I do with it? So I wanna give you 3 immediate actions that every one of you can do right now. Number 1 is this. This has went really well at the other regions, so I want to share it with you. We created a free trust assessment that everyone in your restaurant, you or your, even if it's just your assistants and you want to take, we do not email you, we are not going to send you something, but you're going to get a 15-page report. That assessment takes less than 5 minutes, and it tells you how good you are at building trust in yourself, with others, and your ability to repair trust once it's broken. And at the end of the 15-page report, if you decide to take it as a leadership team, there's some questions in there about, hey, here are some questions that you all should discuss as a leadership team. If you decide, hey, I don't need to do all that, my challenge is I asked you to pick one of those trust moves out of the 6 that you can leave this room and say, I'm just gonna get really intentional over the next month doing that one trust move. And the last thing is, you all already find the good and recognize it, but can you find someone each day or each week? Can you find the little ways to find the good and recognize it? I'll end here. Every year I try to go to Hawaii, and my first year, you all, I was overwhelmed. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna go by myself. And so I went by myself to Hawaii, and while I'm there, I was like, I wanna figure out one of those excursions to do. So I don't know why, I thought going swimming with dolphins in the middle of the ocean sounded like a great idea. So I sign up for this excursion. I get on the boat. Y'all, I am the only person on the boat without their family, all right? Everyone's with other people they know. The crew comes around. They give us the snorkels, the fins, the goggles, and I'm sitting on the back of the boat waiting because I don't know what's going to happen. And we're about 2 hours out to sea, and the captain sees the dolphins jumping up and down in the water. So he races in front of these dolphins and goes, go, go, go. And everyone starts jumping out of the boat. And I look around, I'm like, okay. And I go, and I jump out of the boat. And when I jump out of the boat, this is what I see. So this is my GoPro. And so for the first few seconds, it's literally the most magical experience I've ever experienced until water starts to fill up my mask. And what I don't tell you is I don't swim very well, and I don't have a life jacket because no one on the boat had a life jacket. And I was like, I got snorkels, fins, and a goggles on. I'm sure I'll be okay. Lies. Okay, so I'm trying multiple times to like fix the mask, tread water. It is not going well. I'm like, Justin, stay calm. Go back to the boat. Did any of y'all see that movie, Open Water? Okay, I'm about to give it away. Real life story. They took a bunch of people scuba diving. The crew counts the manifest wrong. They left multiple people in the ocean. And at the end of the movie is, P.S., they're never found again. All right? So all of a sudden, I turn around and the boat is 0.25 miles away. And I was like, well, I got 3 choices. I'm gonna get right with Jesus and call today because it's about to be over. And I was like, I was not ready for that. Number 2, he had said, if any of you all get in trouble, flag us down like this and we'll come save you. I was like, I will not be that guy on the boat today. I will not. And so the only way that I knew I could get back to the boat, I'm aware of how embarrassing this is, but I literally got on my back, and for 0.25 miles, I literally do this the entire way back to the boat. And I get to the edge of the boat, and I don't know if you can see in that photo, I look at the captain, I'm like, sir, can I get one of those pool noodles? And once I got the pool noodle, the rest of the experience was remarkable. And I tell you that because there are a lot of GMs that I get to work with who jump into situations every day without the tools to be successful. And I think that's a choice. One conference is not going to give you all every tool that you need to be successful back in your sports bar, but I definitely think it can give you one tool that can go back and make a really big difference. And so my challenge to all of you as you leave here is you are not just leaving with more information, you're leaving with a responsibility to build trust where you live it, lead it, and love it. And I think if you do that, you will continue to be the greatest sports bar in America. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, B-Dubs. You ready? Thank you, Don. Appreciate you. He might forget.
Mic check. One last applause for Justin, please. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Before I send you on break, I wanted to cover a couple things. A couple things that with Justin's incredible talk right here, I think apply to our business. he started it off with the biggest point. Trust is your biggest competitive advantage because it's the reason that guests keep coming back, right? And it holds true for our business. And then two, the one that really hit me, is it takes 5 interactions to build trust after 1 negative incident. In our business, if we break trust, do we get 5 more shots at it? Hell no, we don't. We will never get 5 interactions to make up for 1 bad one. So it makes it critical in our business that we build trust on their first visit. And we continue to put trust into the bank and continue to put it in because they'll trust in us and keep coming back. But let's not fool ourselves, because if we let them leave our doors with a negative interaction and we've lost that trust, in all essence, we've lost that guest. So please think about that. 3, trust is not comfortable, right? It is not comfortable. Be okay in being uncomfortable. Let's build that trust with our guests. Let's be vulnerable with our team and build that trust, and you'll build our business. All right, we're heading to break. We have a 20-minute break.